Hey, let's try this. The microphone was off. Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I appreciate you guys joining me. Before we get started, I'm here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, so please tune in. Um, I would love to answer your questions. Don't feel like if a question's been asked before, you can't answer it. We made it to December. Welcome to the month of festivities. We got a lot going on over at Team Massive. So if you are not a part of Team Massive Iron, please check out teammassiveiron.com. If you're new, please post up your questions. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. If your question doesn't go through, try putting it in again, try shortening it or rephrasing it. Sometimes YouTube can throttle you. If you are late to the party and want to submit a question, you can head over to Instagram, @BenTheBarman, slide into my DM and submit a question. So how's everybody going? You guys ready for the last month of the year? We're going to finish strong or what? I can't wait. I can't wait to get my home gym rolling. I got a bunch of stuff. I've been putting up updates. I have another half rack to go. I have one rack where I'm going to be doing squatting and one rack where I'm going to be doing benching. And then I'm going to have the rest of my equipment. I got a small little dumbbell rack that has dumbbells that go up to like 75 pounds. And I'm ready to get it on. I have one wall to paint. I got to get my desk down there. I'm going to be down there next Friday, doing this from the new gym. So that's the exciting news on my part. What do we got going on? We got a lot going on this week. There's a lot of interesting stuff. It's always interesting to see where trends are going in the industry, what questions I'm getting from people. And this week definitely was the question about the study, the 52 set study. I had a lot of people reach out to me. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. And we got some questions about natty limits and all kinds of good stuff. So appreciate you guys joining in. Let's get rolling. I'm locked and loaded with the Purple Monster. So where are we at? All right, Stein, good morning, Stein. Happy Friday. Welcome to the party. And Rico, good afternoon. I should say before I move forward, I forgot to mention that if any of you guys are interested in coaching, you can check out my website, superlivingtoday.com. I have a special that I'll be running through the end of the year, which is $6.99 for a year of coaching. If you need a little bit of extra motivation, please check out teammassiveiron.com. We have some new challenges this month. I just woke up this morning and said I'm going to put together 10 challenges this month based on the feedback of the group. So that's what we did. We got a lot of good things going on. We're voting for member of the month today, et cetera, et cetera. So Barbell Bryce, morning, Team Massive. Thanks for joining in. Yvonne, join Team Massive, teammassiveiron.com. Are there any benefits of training deadlifts with a stiff power bar versus a smaller diameter bar with a bit more flex? That's a very good question. I mean, many of us don't train the deadlift with a deadlift bar, right? A deadlift bar is going to have a smaller diameter. It's going to make it feel better to grip, right? And it's going to have a little bit more flex, but most of us don't have that luxury, right? We don't have the luxury of training with a deadlift bar. So, what are the benefits? I trained without a deadlift bar for a long time. I think it was 3 or 4 years before I invested in one. They're relatively cheap. That's the good news. But, I think it's a solid way to train. I think the real benefit is when you move from a normal bar to a deadlift bar and get to experience that flex and that grip, things just start to feel better. So I don't know that there's any inherent benefit from strength building. I think if anything, it makes the process slightly more challenging. But that's the way it was for a long, long time, right? I'm not aware that we had deadlift type of bars, back in the 70s, but people can correct me. I don't know the history of barbells or, when we started to get involved with bars with more flex. But I don't really think it's going to be much of a difference. I think it's going to be challenging, but challenging on a normal basis. And when you switch over to a little bit more flex and a smaller diameter, it's just going to feel a little bit better. I think that's the only intelligent thing I could add to this discussion. Is it typically okay to train shoulder isolation work the day after training heavy pressing? You could. Really, there are some things you don't want to do when it comes to training. Like you don't want to train your triceps heavily or your biceps heavily the day before a pressing day because you really don't want your arms weak. The eccentrics are going to likely to feel heavy, and it's just not going to be a good, it's not going to be a good thing. But if you do, like if you would do on any body part, really, if you would do the more compound lifts one day and the more isolation lifts the next day, I don't really see any downside to that. As long as your weekly volume makes sense, you're good to go. Like if I were to do dumbbell and barbell overhead press today, I could easily do machine and lateral raises tomorrow. That wouldn't be an issue. Some folks are going to be like, muscle protein synthesis, 48 hours, but it really doesn't matter. Sorry, getting my favorite supplement. My wife kept me up. Oop, we just dropped out for a second. Sorry about that. So I don't really see any issues with it. It can kind of mess with you a little bit. You can kind of think maybe I shouldn't be doing that, but as long as you feel recovered and you can, and your weekly volume makes sense, you're going to be absolutely fine. Justin Jones, good morning. Are bulldozer sets good for intermediates? Yeah, absolutely. I think they're more for the late beginner, early intermediate. And then if an advanced lifter wants to use it, they can use whatever they want to use. But absolutely. A bulldozer set, for those of you guys that are wondering, is basically 5 mini sets. So you use the same weight for all sets and you perform max safe reps, rest anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds, and repeat the process 4 more times. So you have 5 mini sets. So basically, you have 5 mini sets where you're using the same weight and you have limited rest. So you're going to end up with about maybe a little bit more reps than you would on 3 sets. It's going to be equatable in general to a 3-set protocol for a lift. They tend to make you more sore because you're bringing up the average rep quality, right? So in that first set, the first 4 to 5 reps might be a little bit mediocre. And then you rest very briefly and immediately the reps are going to be hard again. So you're bringing up the overall rep quality, right? Which is a good thing. With that, you're going to pick up, you're going to be pushing yourself more towards hard training, right? And you're going to find that you have a tendency to be more sore. So we don't have to use bulldozer or rest pause training on everything, but it is a nice tool for exercises you enjoy it on. And I did it back around 2007. Don't quote me specifically. I ran it for nearly a year what I would do was I would use it on bench and incline bench and then dumbbell bench. And it gets a little bit challenging because you have to set the dumbbells down and whatnot. But very challenging. I was able to do it with lightweight. And in fact, one of the things I recall was that when I was doing rest pause work, my joints seemed to feel better for some reason. I don't know if it was placebo. I don't know if it was just random luck, good fortune, but I think my body felt better during that period. I remember my body feeling better. And it's been 15 years, but when I was knee deep in this for a complete year, I just recall, feeling really good. The first 2 to 3 weeks is a break-in period where your strength doesn't really take off. And then I remember my strength taking off, like hitting plus ones a lot. And I remember my body just feeling better than just straight heavy training, for some reason. So take that with a grain of salt as an intermediate. Maybe you will see that same benefit. Maybe your body will feel better with rest pause work than with straight brutal sets. Barbell Beauty, happy Friday. Steve, what are your favorite 3-day split, all things considered? How long would you expect a 20-pound cut to take? Okay, a 3-day split. We got 2 different questions here, so let me break these up. A 3-day split, there are a lot of interesting, ways to slice and dice these things. Now, occasionally somebody will come to me and say, I know you don't like full body. Well, I always have to caveat that because I don't like full body for me, right? I don't think it's ineffective. Some of my clients do full body. I build full body workouts. I'm not against full body. So there can be some confusion that I am against full body. I do not like full body for me. I do not like to train full body style. I just find it irritating. I find the workouts take forever. I don't like to have 8 and 9 exercises per day. I simply don't. Once I'm done with the first 3 or 4, I'm checking the door, right? I'm like, oh, good. I only have dumbbell curls and whatever left. I'm kind of checking the door because I'm working hard. I'm working heavy. And even still, I'm working, 80, 90 minutes a day. So once I get to about that hour point, I'm ready to check out a little bit. With that said, I'm not against full body. But I think if we break it down a little bit more, where we're not training everything 3 days a week, where we're training 2 days, every body part 2 days a week, or maybe 1.75 times per week or 1.5 times per week, that's okay. We're still getting a little bit of frequency. We're getting in some good work. There are many ways to do it. I think my favorite is running the upper posterior over the course of 3 days. So you have upper A, posterior A, upper B, and then posterior B, upper A, posterior A. Running, I think that's my favorite because you're getting in basically 1.5 per body part per week, 1.5 sessions per body part per week. And I think that's reasonable. One other thing you can do is you can take a middle day where you can have limbs, arms and legs, and just do that in the middle day. And then on your first and third days of the week, you can do chest, shoulders, and back. Now, the beautiful thing about this is you're getting in some frequency for your arms. Obviously, you're doing chest, shoulders, and back, like let's say Monday and Friday. So you're getting in indirect bicep and tricep work. And then on your limb day in the middle, you're getting in some arm work as well. The only thing that's going to really be intense is getting in all your leg work on that middle day. But, we have to make some concessions when we're only training 3 days a week. It's going to be hard to train legs more than once in a 3-day period unless you're doing a full body split or doing an upper posterior. So aside from an upper posterior, I like chest, shoulders, back. And then day two, I like limbs, arms, and legs, and then I like chest, shoulders, back. I think that's a really good way of doing things. Now, another thing I've seen people do, and I've had clients do, is an upper day, a lower day, and then a full body day. And the full body day doesn't have to be really compound heavy. So your upper day and your lower day could be more. Your upper day could be chest and shoulders focused with a little bit of arm work. Your lower day or posterior day could be legs and back. And then you could finish off the full body workout with less impactful exercises that are filling in the gaps, like machine presses or arm work or whatever. So you're not doing as many intense compound movements on a Friday. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me get a drink here and answer the second question. All right. All things considered, how long would you expect a 20-pound cut to take? So, a 10-pound cut, we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel right away. A 20-pound cut is a little bit of a trudge, right? We know we got some distance to cover. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong when we're looking at doing a 20-pound cut. I mean, life can kick us in the ass. We can have a bad day at work and move up the maintenance level, or a little bit over. So, for most men, and Barbell Beauty is obviously a woman, but for most men, on the internet, you're looking at like 1.5, 2 pounds a week. That's a pretty good rate for most men, with all the nonsense that can go on in life. Hey, it's there's a football game on Sunday. I'm going to eat and drink a little bit more, or I got a date night, or whatever you got going on. So the norm for men is like 6 to 8. Women would be more like 4 to 6. They start in a deeper hole because they don't have as many calories to begin with. They're not as heavy of a body mass, so their metabolism's a little bit lower. So there's less wiggle room for a woman. That doesn't mean they can't do it more aggressively. It's just more challenging. They're in a deeper hole to start with. So women were looking at 4 to 6, right, as reasonable per month. So I would say my wish for somebody that's cutting, that's a female, would be, let's try to get it over 3 months at the latest. Really, I would like to see, 2 months and 10 pounds a month, that's a lot. It can be done. It's a lot, but I would say 2.5 months would be a good target. You really have to think through what you want to do here. When we're going to do a cut, we have to decide, are we going to cut, right? Or are we going to cut? Are we going to just get in and suck it the bleep up, right? So what can we do to suck it up? What can we do to maximize the process when we're trying to cut or lose weight? Number one, a big issue is that people will eat too much before dinner, and they don't leave themselves enough calories for dinner or after. The problem with this for most people is we are less active in general after dinner. We tend to be sitting around or have family time. And when we are less active, that's when we have a tendency to our downtime, we want to eat more. So it's in general better for most people to save more calories for when they have more downtime. When you're active, you're not, with work or with school or with whatever, you tend not to have as much time to think about eating or eating. So you want to maximize those times when you are active and not eat as much, okay? Or fast during an 8-hour window if you can. That helps a lot. Fasting is not a magical cure. It doesn't supersede calories in, calories out. but it certainly does make it easier to lose weight more rapidly because you're only eating within a certain window, and you're like, I can only eat like about 1,000 calories and I'm full, even if I haven't eaten all day, maybe 1,200, maybe if I'm lucky, 1,500, but I don't like the way I feel. Some other things to think about. And I actually, saw James Tinyvest talking about some of these things indirectly yesterday, based on a Ryan Humiston video. And this is something I've been discussing forever. So it seems like myself and James Tinyvest are on the same sheet of music. And even Ryan Humiston, we're just presenting it a little bit differently. Is that you want to try to raise your protein to about 40% of your intake. Obviously, there's thermogenic benefits. It's harder to digest protein. More energy goes to that. But if you are bringing your protein up to about 40% of your daily intake, you're going to be eating more lean protein sources naturally, which is going to allow for more food volume. If you dial your fat levels down to about 20% during a cut, and you fill in the rest of your 40% of calories with fruits and vegetables, and James Tinyvest talks about increasing his fiber, basically the same thing. If you look at filling in the cracks with strawberries and pickles and tomatoes and even some grains like rice and oatmeal or whatever, you are going to have a higher food volume, a higher degree of satiety. And it takes, again, more energy to digest fibrous foods and protein foods than it does everything else. So it's going to be a little more thermogenic friendly. So those are all things. If I wanted to maximize a cut, I think a good general roadmap would be to really restrict, not necessarily do intermittent fasting, but like what I would do is maybe restrict my calories, 25% of my calorie intake before dinner, and then save 75% for dinner and a snack afterwards. Dial my protein up as much as possible, rely on lean proteins, reduce my fats to about 20%. And then for my carbs, instead of overly relying on complex carbs, you can have rice, you can have potatoes, you can have oatmeal, but make sure you're getting in a lot of the high volume mushrooms and tomatoes and cucumbers and strawberries and all that kind of stuff. You're going to be able to get in a lot of food. Watermelon is something that I used to eat a lot when I was cutting. Even grapes. Grapes are something that are like a snack food where you can't just plow in 400 calories of grapes. You're going to get pretty full on grapes, and that's a wonderful thing as well. All right, we got a lot of good questions, guys, so keep them coming. Pile them on. I'll stay on as long as you guys have questions. Jonathan, good morning, Steve. December already. I plan to train Monday, Wednesday, Friday in a commercial gym and dumbbells work on Saturday. What would be a flexible split if I miss a weekday workout? Well, the best flexible split is generally the upper posterior or the torso limbs, because you can come back to it again. So with you doing dumbbell work on Saturday, it's almost better for you to do an upper posterior rotation during the week. And then on Saturday, you can do your arm work with dumbbells. Maybe your rear delt work with dumbbells. You could do some calves and abs and have a junk day on Saturday. That's what I would do. Because worst case, if you miss a training day during the week, you're still getting in an upper posterior at minimum and then a junk day on Saturday. So that's the most flexible. I mean, you could do torso limbs, but then you're doing arm work, and then you come to Saturday and you're doing more arm work. So hold on. Hold on, my backup phone is acting crazy. My backup phone was acting crazy. Sorry, I got a backup phone for international calls. So that's what I would do. New research comes out, 50 sets per muscle group in a week. Is it true? Well, I made a meme about this last night, and it upset a couple people thinking I was attacking Dr. Mike. Um, he made a video about the study, and I didn't actually have time this week to watch the video, so don't paint me in a corner or get angry with me. I don't have time to watch everything, immediately. I've been trying to build my gym and attend to my clients, or I attend to my clients first, and then after I get done, I'll eat and spend an hour building my gym. So I haven't had really time to watch the video. I kind of have a general sense, of what's going on, and I'm going to be making a video about this because I think it's an interesting topic. But basically, for a specialization period, ramping your volume up, could be a good thing. I don't think Dr. Mike and I disagree with that at all. I've been putting together specialization programs for a very, very long period of time. And I think specialization periods where you are reducing the volume of everything else and focusing on a weaker muscle group is a good thing. Now, the whole 52 sets thing, let's set that aside because, look, we are human beings. We need to decide, even if you were to run a specialization program, that doesn't mean that immediately, like your life, your school life, your family life, you have to just set that aside and live in the gym. That's just not possible. A specialization needs to fit. It needs to fit our schedule. So obviously, if a study shows you could go up to 50 to 52 sets on a specialization and have it provide an additional, little bit of a benefit, um, then that's great. But in the real world, it breaks down. And that's not saying that the data or research is wrong. It's just saying we have to frame everything on on reality, right? Um, if you try to do 52 sets per week for all major muscle groups, like chest, back, shoulders, and legs, that'd be 210 sets per hard sets per week. In the massive iron world, we look at 72 as a really good starting point. That'd be 3 times as much. So basically, you would be looking at 24 hours in the gym a week. That would be specializing everything. If you were to specialize just one area, do I think 52 sets per week is good? No, I don't. I think you're going to pick up injuries. I think if you're going to run a specialization program, you want to run it for at least 2 months, right? 2 months. And then you're probably going to get into an overreaching zone where you feel overreached, maybe beat up a little bit, and then you need to pull back and rest. But in the massive iron world, we're going to kind of phrase our specialization programs based on reality. So we might dial everything. Sorry, it went out for a second. We might back and delts and legs down to like 8 sets per week and take that extra volume and put it into our chest specialization. Does that make sense? So we're probably going to try to keep the same number of sets per week, but we're going to remove a little bit from other body parts and pile that into the specialization focus. So don't panic, right? You want to run a chest specialization, okay? And let's say you're doing 72 sets a week, 4 workouts of 18 sets a day. This is just a starting point. It could be anything. It's arbitrary. You could dial down you want to run a chest specialization. So you dial down back and delts and quads down to 8 sets a week. So you have 12 more sets to work with. You could pile them on your chest, and all of a sudden you have 24 sets of chest to work with. You could dial your arm work down a little bit, and maybe you could get your chest work up to 30 sets per week. You're still going to be able to have eight hard sets on Sorry, we keep dipping out a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on with the internet. So it's not like the other areas are neglected during a specialization. We're just kind of one of the issues, though, is when we can create these on paper, right? But then when you get into the gym and all of a sudden you got 24, 28 sets for chest, how are your joints handling it, right? How is recovery? We still have to make sure we're not getting injured. We have to make sure we don't have overuse injuries, because training needs to be sustainable, right? For it to be effective. If training takes you out of the gym because of overuse injuries, overreaching, then is it effective training? No. So we can take a number and we can get obsessed, like with 52 sets per week. But I think A, would you have the energy reserves to get through that effectively? B, would you have the time to attack that effectively? And C, do you really feel a specialization program over the course of 2 months at that level, you would not get injured, you would not get battered and beat up? I would. Even some of the Russian squad programs are very, very challenging, but they're nowhere near that type of volume. So research, is one thing, but research has to align with reality, the reality of the human body and the demands outside of the gym. We are more than just robots that lift weights that can be programmed. So those are my thoughts, and I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you guys have any questions on any of this. Macaroni. A Noble Natty guy says that there's no genetic limit to building muscle and you can progress forever. When we look at things like a hyperbolic curve, okay, like when you start out with lifting, you're going to have a rapid degree of acceleration. And then the closer you get to the ceiling, it's going to slow down. It's still going to continue to approach, but it's never going to quite get there, right? It's going to continue of our life in a practical sense. It's never going to quite get there. It's just going to continue to approach, and then old age is going to set in, injury is going to set in, and then we pass on. So in that sense, from a semantic standpoint, we never get fully where we're going to go. With that said, when you are deep into this, you are not going to be building much at all. I really haven't built, if you look at pictures of me now compared to where I was in 1998, before my first daughter was born, I was training hard and I was at my strongest. I looked the same. Maybe there's a pound of muscle difference. Maybe I brought up my rear delts more. Maybe I brought up my erectors more because I started deadlifting. Yes, you can bring up lagging body parts. You can add a little bit of muscle, but I mean, if we would be fools, and I'm not calling anybody a fool. I said we would be fools to continue to think that the curve is like we can just continue to accelerate. It's like that with strength. We don't really know where strength naturally will end. But we do know with muscle building that we are no bigger now than the lifters in their 50s. So for folks to say there's no genetic limit to building muscle is just ignorance and wishful thinking. It is. And I'm sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings, but we're no bigger now than we were in the 1940s and 1950s. And this has been studied. People want to believe that it's whenever I've been saying this, I've been talking about this for 20 years now, literally almost 20 years now. And it always is met with the same debates and discussions by the younger guys. We're going to show you, and nobody shows you. Because it doesn't happen physiologically outside of a few rare outliers that might be able to have larger muscle bones or larger bone muscle bones, larger bone structure. What am I saying? and maybe able to pack on 3 to 5 more pounds than what we would imagine. Uh, but it's not. You just can't continue to get bigger. This is just a silly discussion. And you got you all we need to look back is lifters from the 50s, 60s, 70s naturals. They're all about the same. No one needs that. Anybody that says they've broken through, is usually, a lion like taking their duck eggs or whatever. They're just, full of crap. So if somebody wants to crucify me, I will die on that mountain, because I know in 40 years naturals are going to be the same size as they are now. And we tend to get punch drunk on, hey, I just had a really rapid period of acceleration towards my natural potential. This is sustainable. Everybody feels that way until it's not. Mike Jonas, do you know a good training program for 3 days a week, but not full body? Yep, Mike, check out on my website, superlivingtoday.com. Check out the upper posterior, or all these programs are for free. Like when I refer you guys to my website, you can buy the PDF if you want, but I want you guys to always understand that I provide them for free on this channel. So almost everything that's on my website that I sell is provided here for free first. So that's very important to me, to provide the free information, and then optional for those of you guys that want a PDF copy. But check out my upper posterior or my alternatives to an upper lower. You just need to go to the main page of this channel. If you can't find it, just DM me on Instagram or email me, benthebarman@gmail.com, and I will provide you with a link to the free information and to the PDF. But I think for 3 days a week, the upper posterior is the most bang for your buck, because you get some flexibility. You get to rotate between upper chest, shoulders, and arms, and then back and legs, and then chest, shoulders, and arms, and then back and legs. And I believe it's just well-rounded. It's a lot more fun than doing all of your upper body and then your lower body, and then all of your upper body, then your lower body. I don't find that a good way to train. I noticed some barbells at my gym are shorter than others. Yes, it's very, very possible. It's very possible every barbell in your gym weighs differently. There are some gyms that actually have a scale, and these are usually more hardcore gyms, where you can weigh plates. And I've been to a couple gyms like that. 2 gyms in my life where you can weigh plates and bars. But yes, there's a high likelihood. A high degree of likelihood that they are less, especially if they're shorter. What would result in more strength loss, assuming weight goal is the same, a drastic cut or a slow and controlled one? I guess it's relevant. And I didn't have an issue the last 2 weeks, but today it seems to be a little bit spotty. So this is speculation. But the upside to a quick cut is that you have fewer days where you're going to be in a deficit. So you can get back to you get back to getting after the PRs. A longer cut, you have more days where you're in that glycogen depleted state, energy depleted state. I have a tendency to believe that while you might feel like crap on a quick, drastic cut, it would be better in the long run. I just don't see any benefit in prolonging a cut. I don't want you guys to do anything extreme, right? Don't want you to do anything extreme, but I do want you to get the damn cut over with, right? Because in the world of coaching, it's what you see. It's just draw out the cut, draw out the cut, draw out the cut. Went off today, went over today, had a few beers at the game today, it's like you want you just want that person just to get it over with because there's obviously more joy in life when you're in a calorie surplus, right? All right, so I'm going to give away. This is where we hit 11 o'clock. I'm going to give away something each week. I give away. Um, each week I give away something. So I'm going to look for a new name. At first, I wasn't sure if this is a troll. You never know if you're getting troll accounts or sock accounts on here. People with more time on their hands but looking for Coach if you're a real human being and would like a Massive Iron t-shirt or hoodie or whatnot, please hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman or email me benthebarman@gmail.com. All right. Let me get a drink and we'll get rolling back into things. We're 45 minutes in. We got 54 people watching. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Just a reminder, I'm here every Friday, 56 now. I want your questions. So whatever your questions are, complex, simple, off topic, nutrition, whatever, don't be shy. I'm here to help. And if you don't want to share your questions in the public forum, email me or hit me up on Instagram. All right. Soy sauce banana. When people cut after a bulk, should they have a number in the scale in mind? Or is it more subjective? I'm trying to process this to make sure I understand what you're trying to say here. And when people cut after a bulk, should they have a number on the scale in mind? Yes, you should have a goal. If we're talking about building muscle and building an optimal physique, right? We want to have numbers. We want to have concrete goals. We don't want to play with, the netherworld or vaporous goals. We want to have like 10-pound bulks, 10-pound cuts, 10-pound bulks. I'm going to bulk 15, then lose 12. Whatever your thing is. Yes, this is people that have concrete goals and hit them are far more successful than people that have these vaporous, general, subjective goals. Like, I'm just going to cut until I see my abs. Well, that's all good and well. But the problem is, like, most of us have more fat to lose to see our abs than we think, and things can get tedious. Does that make sense? So a better goal would be I'm going to lose 10 pounds and reassess how far away I am from seeing abs and then see if I have the time and mental energy to get there. I think that's a little bit better. I do provide teammassiveiron.com. We do body fat assessments. You can do a body fat assessment as often as you want relative to where you want to get. I think that's a good information to have. Everyone give him a like. Thank you, sir. All right. So, Matthew, how do you balance distance running with lifting 4 to 5 times a week? Well, I think if you are getting into both, there's going to be what I would probably call a curve of brutality. Like you're jumping into a lot all at once. And excuse me, you're jumping into a lot all at once, and recovery is probably going to hit you hard. And you're really going to need to nail your nutrition. I lifted for over 35 years before I got into ultra running. So I was kind of on cruise control. It's really easy to sustain mass. So sustaining mass and then adding in distance running is easier than trying to build and add in distance running. Does that make sense? So Distance running, if you want to do distance running, you probably need 3 sessions a week. 2 sessions that are just kind of general workman sessions, and 1 session on the weekend where you are probably running a little bit longer. So let's say you're going to have, let's say you want to take Sunday off. Saturday, you could probably have a lighter lifting session and a longer running session. You want to do the lifting first because you don't want to have to try to lift when you're completely flat from running. So you want to maybe have a junk day, right? And then it'd probably be wise to do a junk day, a lighter day like arms, and then rest for an hour and then go out and do your long run. During the week, you could lift 3 to 4 times a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then squeeze in your runs on Tuesday, Thursday. Or you could cross over and have a day where you run early in the week and do like chest or whatever, or shoulders. So there's probably going to be 1 to 2 overlap days where you run and lift on the same day. You just have to time them wisely, if that makes sense. Does metabolism rate affect what nutrient ratios you can get away with? Let me phrase it like this. What you eat matters. So it's not just your metabolic rate. The more you eat protein foods, the more you eat, the more you rely on animal and plant-based foods, the more you're digesting. Like if you just eat white sugar, white flour, right? Easily digestible foods, junk foods, super easy to digest, doesn't take a lot for your body to work at and get the energy from them. We're talking nutrient ratios. So nutrient ratios matter relative to what you're eating. If you're eating a lot of animal and plant-based foods, you can get in a lot of food volume. But if your protein starts to slip towards 20, 25%, your fats start to slip, you're eating more junk, right? You're eating more easily. Metabolism rate affect the new. I mean, if we want to be mindful of what you can get away with. I mean, I think if you have a very fast metabolism, yeah, you can get away with more. You can obviously, I think this is what you're asking. I'm not certain, but I have clients that need 4,000 plus calories a day, and just eating clean foods, animal and plant-based, it can be hard to get that stuff in. So yes, you might want to fill in the cracks with ice cream or a couple servings of Doritos or whatever your thing is, to get in those calories just as extra energy. But you want to have that nutrient base. So we're not so much talking about nutrient ratios as getting in a solid nutrient base. Let's say you were somebody that needed 4,200 to 4,500 calories a day to even have a prayer at gaining weight. And these individuals exist. I work with a few of them. Maybe you're at like 2,800 calories where you have quality nutrients. You have, your animal and plant-based foods, and then the rest you could fill in the gaps. You could get away with more sloppy eating because you're trying to get in calories after a point. Does that make sense? John Michael, I stopped doing squats due to low back issues. Fair. I switched to Smith squats, hack squats, leg press, extensions. Absolutely. Absolutely. My clients that are doing, you want to make sure your leg presses and hack squats are fairly deep. And I have a couple clients doing Smith squats right now that just bury them and get a lot out of them. So that's a good mix. Richard, thank you, sir. Thanks for tuning in. Joe B, hey, Team Massive, just starting Upper B now, catching up on live. Have a good workout. Big Devin Dawson, Big Devin Dawson. Any advice on how to place running in a lifting program? Currently doing 4 days a week and running 2. When you can, you want to run on an off day. So I would probably have a Saturday where you run early in the morning and then one day during the week where you're not lifting and running. Something like that. I would tend to, unless you want more days where you're not doing any activity, you could run and lift on the same day. But if you're going to run and lift on the same day, you want to have it more of a moderate workout, like a chest. There are times when I'm on a cut where I'm trying to get in food volume, where I'll eat a lot of pickles, I'll eat a lot of tomatoes, I'll eat a lot of grapes. And I wouldn't say it's too much, right? But it does tend to push things along a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. So I don't know there's too much fiber. I mean, everybody's going to react differently. When I have too much fiber, it just pushes things along a little bit. And not to be crude, but that's what happens. So, but everybody is different. For some people, too much fiber can actually be counterproductive. So just it all has to be based on what is taking place in your body. Hey, I'm running a cut for 3 weeks now. DC training and massing got me good progress, good, but I got chubs. What I want you to think about is not 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. I want you to think about trying to get your protein as high as you can or as close as you can to 40% of your daily calorie intake. That'll force you to eat more lean proteins. That'll give you a good quality protein intake, and that's the best way to approach things. Well, a good way to approach things. Which machine do you think works the quads better? There's so many different types of leg presses. There's a nice horizontal leg press. Then you have the kind of the cheaper ones at the Y, where I just feel like I have to wedge myself in from the start and I don't have good range of motion. That type of leg press, I think, is more of the bottom of the barrel. And I would say the 45-degree leg press. But the answer in the massive iron world is, if you are uncertain about, which is better and you have access to all of them, do both within a week or alternate every other week. That's usually your best answer. Does muscle soreness or delayed onset muscle soreness mean I have a productive workout? I know it's not this. No. There are certain muscle groups you're never going to get sore. We don't worry about muscle soreness. We worry about hard training, and muscle soreness can be a byproduct. In fact, there's good indication, and this is something that I've talked about forever, but I don't know many other people are talking about. The fascia or connective tissue in and around a muscle each muscle group is unique. It's different, right? That fascia or connective tissue has 9 times more sensory neurons than muscle tissue. So there's a good chance most of the soreness, most of the pain you're feeling from lifting isn't muscular at all. It's fascia or connective tissue related. So it would make sense because every muscle group has a different fascia or connective tissue makeup. Your delts, your chest, your abs, that different areas would not get as sore as easily. That's my theory. But no, we do not want to worry about muscle soreness. We want to worry about hard training and progressive overload. What do you think of Callie's watermelon diet? I think I like watermelon, but I think it's a good way to get sick. There's certain nutrients you need from animal base that you can't get from watermelon, and a little bit cray-cray. All right. Does all protein have the same thermic effect? No. Digestibility. I'm just speaking off the cuff, on common sense. Is it going to be easier to digest milk than a steak? Yes. Is it going to be easier to digest Greek yogurt than a chicken breast? Yes. Is it easier to digest an egg white than, a fillet of salmon? Yes. I don't know to what degree. It would just make sense, right? So there are thermic effects of food, and I haven't looked at them in several years, but just from a common sense standpoint, we know that meat's probably going to be more challenging than like milk or Greek yogurt. My main lifts are going up, but the exercises after this are going down. Don't worry about it. Get over it. I don't care. I'm saying this politely. People that worry about, I'm giving it hard, and then the exercises after the first couple are going down, you're chasing numbers and not hard training. You're trying to build your work capacity up so everything starts to increase. So keep your head in that game. If rep drops too much, should I reduce the weight? If the reps are really dropping over time, there's something else going on. That's not normal. I don't see that in coaching, and I'm not being critical, but that's abnormal for that to be consistent. Either you're in a cut, you're not eating as much, or your general life fatigue, something else is going on, but that's not normal. And I'm not being critical when I say that's not normal. I'm trying to tell you that if it's going on over a period of time where your first two exercises, like let's say you're doing an upper and you're doing a barbell bench and a seated dumbbell overhead press to lead off. And then the 4 exercises after that on your day are always going down. They just continue to decrease. Never seen that happen. I'm not saying it's not happening, Bryce. I'm just saying I've never seen it happen. And if it is happening, we have to analyze what is going on, right? Is your sleep okay? Is your nutrition okay? Is something deeper going on? Because that's not normal. And when it's not normal, it's highly abnormal, then we need to take a much deeper dive. And I'm here to help. So any information you have, just share it with me on Team Massive. HD 6 skills. Hey, Steve, I did a long 6-month cut. Good work. That's a lot of weight to lose. Did a mini bulk to remove diet fatigue and started another mini cut. What do you think about 6'1", 85 kilos? Alexa, how many pounds is 85 kilos?
85 kilograms is about 187 pounds. By the way, you have
Alexa,
2 new notifications.
Stop. I don't need notifications about my delivery. So you're looking at about 6'1", 187. I had to frame that. I'm 5'10", so that'd be about 172 equatable. That's on the lighter side. That's not being critical, but that's a good weight to be at. So from there you could easily do 10-pound bulks, 10-pound cuts, and maybe even slowly gain 10 to 15 pounds on the scale. How do you plan for days where you know you're going to be eating in excess? Usually when you have a day where you're going over and it's 400, 800, even 1,000 calories or whatever. The body isn't immediately like a light switch. Generally, it's not like I'm going to take every extra calorie and turn it into fat. A lot of times what will happen is you'll pick up some water weight, bloat, and when you get back to your normal eating, that'll flush away and you'll be right back where you were. it seems that when the body is constantly in a state of overload, like overeating, then it kind of becomes more efficient at fat. It wouldn't make sense, for the body to be so radical. I think there's transitionatory periods where we are becoming more effective at fat storage and fat storage release. And I think, my opinion, and this sounds a little bit bro sciencey, I know, but my opinion is that if you just have 1 or even 2 days where you're over slightly, you're going to pick up some inflammation, some water retention, extra sodium, extra waste, extra carbs, holding extra water, and that'll generally flush out. I don't like to bank calories or go lower in a bulk, because then we're just in a sloppy cut. We're cutting, 1 day over, cutting, 1 day over. That's kind of what we would call a sloppy cut. So I would just suck it up and get back on the wagon. If you're not on a bulk, things will just break even. Does that make sense? I know I could have cut much faster, but first year in the gym. It sounded like you did a really good job, man. I mean, you went from 104 to 82 kilos in 6 months. That's pretty impressive. I started building a home gym with just a barbell and a rack. Is there a way to program my days by barbell work at home? And yeah, there's always a way. The one thing, though, I don't like is doing all your barbell lifts on one day and then all your rest of your stuff at a commercial gym, because I would not like to do squats, bench, deads, and overhead presses and all my barbell work on one day. It would destroy me. It would not be fun. So I would honestly maybe split those into 2 days and then questions coming. I'll stay on as long as you guys have questions. We're about everyone went on to say, should I just do what I can at home? You could. I mean, it all depends on what is convenient for you, right? You don't want it to be a burden. And I'm not sure how far away your commercial gym is. I really would not personally like to do 4, 5, or 6 compound movements with a barbell on the same day at home. Just from changing plates, changing setups, and the stress would drive me absolutely crazy. Big Chris Jackson, are we getting more tier lists? I'll do anything you guys want, man. I'd be happy to do it. You guys let me know what tier lists you want on Instagram at Ben the Barman, or on here, whatever. I'd be happy to do a tier list. You bet. Is Camber Bar good for bench assistance? I don't know. I mean, there's so many. A cambered bar is basically going to drive your shoulders down lower. And I don't think that's the way you want to go when it comes to a bench assistance exercise. Now, I'm not saying some people can't get value out of that, but the lower you bring your elbows down, the more stress you're going to place on your shoulders. And trying to bring the bar down lower than the chest level, I'm not so certain that's the best way to go. I think there's other quality options out there I'd rather do. 89 Charlotte, do you have any recommendations for increasing magnesium consumption? Let me just pull up magnesium foods. So where are we? Magnesium foods, seeds. there's something on Amazon I get called GERDs or GERBs seeds. It's like that's a simple way you can just take a little bit of that and add a little bit of nuts and seeds to your day without adding a crazy amount of calories. Because like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, almonds, cashews, peanuts, a lot of legumes, like even like black beans, have magnesium. Potatoes are good and rice. So your complex carbs. Yogurt's pretty good. Salmon's pretty good. Bananas are pretty good. So, I mean, if you get in a little bit of seeds each day and you get in like some potato and rice, some yogurt, maybe some oatmeal, some beans. I like black beans. You're going to be in a pretty good position. So just do your research and find some of these foods you like and find a way to work them in every day or during the week. Big Bob V. Lost strength on bench, gain strength on all other non-pushing lifts. The progression on other lifts confuses me. What could be going on? I do not know for certain, but I do know that weight and calories tends to have the biggest impact on pressing. So when somebody's bench press and overhead presses are not moving, usually it's something related to calories, inconsistent calories, weight staying the same. So I don't know, Bob, if you're consistent. I don't know if you're bulking. I'd like to know where your weight has been the last 3-4 months. That would be the first thing I would look at. And maybe add a couple extra 100 calories or make sure you're gaining weight each month. How much does gaining pure fat help on bench? We don't want to turn into fatties. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. One of the issues with gaining weight, calorie surplus is magic for recovery and all that other kind of stuff. And the fat gain is just kind of a byproduct of being in a huge calorie surplus, right? So if you're constantly in a huge calorie surplus and you're fat bulking, it's going to really facilitate bench strength. Dirty bulking is having some sloppy food choices in there. That's fine if you have the calories to absorb that and still get in your nutrients. But dirty bulking should never be equated to rapid weight gain. Patty, my bench went up 20 pounds because I fat bulked, and now I got to cut again or else face a heart attack. That's not the way to go. That's not the way to go. BBR. Does carb timing matter for body composition? I eat a majority of my calories later in the evening, but enjoy morning lifts. Carb timing can matter to a degree, right? We don't want to go into a workout flat or glycogen depleted. Okay. We don't want to go into a workout glycogen depleted. So a couple hours, 2-3 hours before we work out, we probably want some form of carbotrons. We don't have to overdo it, right? Some complex, maybe some simple, a slight mix. So we enter a workout with glycogen stores at a decent level for our workout so we can have a good productive workout. When you're done working out, that's a good time to eat. Now, do you have to eat immediately? No. But usually within a 2-3 hour window after lifting is a good time to have a good, big, hearty meal and get in some more carbs. First thing in the morning when you are depleted, speaking of timing, you probably want to get in some electrolytes and water because your body's a little bit low on both. So the way a day would work for a lifter is you would get up, you would have your water right out of bed. You'd have some electrolytes, like an electrolyte powder. Like I use an electrolyte powder, and I'm not trying to pimp a brand, right? I have no affiliation. So Element I use. Have your water, have your electrolytes straight out of bed. Make sure you get in some carbs during the day, but we don't have to overdo it. You just don't want to go in your workout flat and then save some carbs for post workout whenever that happens to be. Does that make sense? Mr. C13. I use body measurements to help track progress. Is it normal or okay to have one? Yeah, that's 100% normal. 100% normal. I've had my right arm bigger than my left arm for 38 years, and nothing's changing that. It just they're both getting big. They still have a slight discrepancy, and nearly every lifter I know, every lifter I work with, has the same issue. So that's normal. It's okay, and there's generally nothing you can do about it. It can bother you, but you're going to have to get over it because there's nothing you can do. If you take vitamins, what is your current stack? We got two questions here. So vitamins, what do I take? Well, it's a gloomy day in Ohio. I take B12. B12 is a common deficiency. So I take D3 and B12. I take a multivitamin as a backup. I take fish oil. I take ashwagandha for stress. What else do I take? I take creatine when I can remember. right. When I'm being a good boy. So often. So what do we got here? Let me just scroll through my Amazonian Amazons. I get the Amazon Basics fish oil. These are gummies. Amazon Basics B12 gummies. Amazon Basics D3 gummies. And I'm not pushing Amazon Basics. I just like the gummies. I just don't want to do 200 pills, a day. What else we got? Hold on. We got more coming. I take ashwagandha gummies. And that's not Amazon Basics. And what else do I take? Tart cherry. Tart cherry is something I just started adding. Tart cherry. So that's a reasonable choice as well. Now, second question. That is a question in this industry that can cause so much heated discussion amongst people that care if you're natty or not, right? Like it's a competition. Now, I'm not trying to be a smartass to the younger crowd, the guys under, say, 25 or 30. But the reality is, once you go past college and you get into a marriage and you get into a stressful job and raising kids and all this stuff and trying to keep the roof over your house or trying to keep the roof over your head and groceries coming in and dealing with dickhead bosses and moving along in life, you aren't what you used to be. That's just the law of the jungle. You can lose your edge, even if you're doing the best you can. It's easy to have a knee-jerk reaction saying, come on, buddy, get your shit together, right? People are doing the best they can in many ways to keep their shit in order. But, like when you're 25, do you really need TRT? Not really. At that age, it's more for a bump, muscle-wise. I think once you have some, little vermin running around, kids, I'm just saying that facetiously as a joke, when you have a career and you have, you're checking your test levels and you're trying to treat yourself okay. And sleep's not what it was and other things aren't what it was. And, and you're not at your prime, if you want to consider it, go right ahead. It bothers me that, I will have guys in their 40s and 50s that work out hard, like hard, and they take a little bit of TRT and they get slammed, right? Like, um, you don't make it to that position. This is about real life and people's lives. And look, if we want to get judgmental, let's be real here for a moment. If we want to pull back the veil and just start judging people on their bad habits or their habits in general, I'm not calling TRT a bad habit. That was a bad way to phrase it. But if we want to pull back the veil and start judging people, we need to be really ready to judge ourselves first. These people that are quick to judge, a 50-year-old man for, taking a small TRT bump, and then they're off getting stoned 3 times a week or partying. I don't have a problem with any of that. I don't. I do not care how anybody else lives their life. But for those that do, they need to apply that same mirror on themselves. You need to look inward first and assess your own bullshit before you start jumping in what somebody else is doing legally with their body. Who gives a shit, really? The whole natty or not stuff bores the crap out of me because I simply don't care. I want each and every one of you to be healthy, to be happy. What I really want for everybody is to be bigger and stronger. That's what this channel is about. And I've seen guys that have taken TRT that don't know how to train. It's not going to make up for things. Yeah, you could have a couple pound bump muscle wise, but it's not going to make up for training like a sack of crap. Right. So I don't have my position on TRT, HRT is the same as my position on recreational drugs, is the same as my position on anything. Freedom guy. And as long as you're not impacting your family, your relationships, who gives a shit? Life is short. Take care of yourself. And everybody else that's out there judging you can literally go fuck themselves. That's the attitude you have. This is your life, man. It's going to be over in a blink of an eye. And when you're dead, no one's going to remember you at all. Right? These people that are judging you, they're going to forget you faster than they knew you. So do you. Josh, some people seem to have abs popping out at 18%. Yeah, I'm one of those that have popping out at 22%. Thickness over time. Store. I tend to store way lower down in the belly. And some of it can just be with ab thickness, lifting over a long period of time. If you're going to lift heavy compounds over 20, 30 years, you're going to develop an innate thickness that you're not going to have, just from getting your curly whirlies up to 35 or 40 pounds, if that makes sense. Big John Paul. First time doing hammer curls, and my left arm gave out first. That's normal. We talked about this earlier, having a discrepancy in size. There's also going to be a discrepancy in strength, one arm to the other. What I do is I start with the weak arm. So if I'm doing alternating and I know my left is weaker, I'll do left, right, left. And when the weak arm fails, then I stop the set. So I judge my progression on what the weak arm is doing. That's what I do. Big Daniel White Jr. Hey, big hairy ugly dude. I'm interested in running along with my weight training. Should I start running on a treadmill? Your A1 priority is to find a trail to run on. It's going to be easier on your joints. This sounds opposite to what people think, but running on pavement or hard ground or a treadmill is going to beat up your hips and knees. You want to take care of your stuff so you can run on a trail. Get on a trail. What would my macros percentage be for 2,200 calories? It depends on if you're bulking or cutting. Now, if you're cutting, you want to get your protein up to as close to 40% as you can. Your fats down. Sorry, we look like we cut for a second. If you are bulking, you want to hit a minimum of 150 protein a day. Probably keep your fats around 25% and fill in the gaps with carbs, roughly. I'm always confused by people who say they can't gain weight. Why junk food? Is it really that hard to drink a little bit more milk, protein shake? No, it's not. I'm going to be honest with you. In my time coaching, some of the hardest people to work with are the ultra lean, skinny guys that are afraid of eating one extra egg because they feel bloated. I'm not making fun of them. I'm just telling you reality. They're the harder guys to work with because they just don't want to gain weight. And I know that a lot of it is bullshit. They have a fear. It's borderline. It's a borderline food issue. Now, is it better to not want to get fat than to get morbidly obese? Of course, right? So I'm not trying to lump everybody and be alarmist and say you have an eating disorder. But if your food issues prevents you from reaching your goals, which are muscle building, then there's a minor issue at play because having more muscle and more strength is healthier. So if you refuse to eat a little bit more to facilitate these goals, you're being irrational and unreasonable. And no, it does not need to be junk food. If I wanted to add calories right now, I'd add an ounce or two of heavy cream into a milkshake. You can also get a Crema, whatever that ice cream maker is, protein maker. And you can add avocado, you can add cheese, you can add sour cream. You can add a little bit of all these things. And the calories add up quickly and you get a lot of quality nutrients. I think I'm not, there we go. It lagged for a minute. So it lagged for a minute and then I couldn't get it to load. I think I missed your answer on fiber. Will my muscles still grow with my fiber? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at somewhere out there. Somebody's teaching somebody that if they eat too much fiber, their muscles won't grow. That's ridiculous. I'm not sure where that comes from. And again, BB, I'm not laughing at you at all. What I'm laughing at is somebody out there, some numbskull, is teaching you your muscles won't grow if your fiber levels are too high. This is the most ridiculous. This is why people get confused, because there's people out there just wasting your time. If anybody's heard this, any influencer teaching this, I'd like to know who it is, because I'd like to personally laugh in their face. Joy Pass, how many songs have you written? Oh my goodness. So when I was in the military, I got a Tascam 4-tracker. And I started recording. I didn't have anything else to do. In the 90s, I probably recorded like 200 songs. A lot of bad ones, right? A lot of really bad songs. And then the last 10 years, I've been in real studios many, many, many times. I've probably recorded 70, 80 songs in the last 10 years. A lot of them aren't the greatest. That's just kind of the nature of music. A lot of them I'm really proud of, but I would say probably 300 over the years, uh, give or take. Austin, how much of a deficit is too low? I've been in a 500 calorie deficit. Um, well, I will say this: if you're only losing 2 to 4 pounds a month, your deficit isn't as deep as you would think, right? And that's not a criticism. That just means you need to cut calories. I would need to know how many calories you're taking in, what your micronutrient percentages look like, etc. So if you have that posted up now, if you're still watching, just wanted to add at 85 kilos, would you still advise? No, you're at a reasonable body weight. What I would do from here for the next 2 years is bulk 10, cut 10, bulk 10, cut 10, bulk 10, cut 10. Do this 5 times over the course of the next 2 years. And what's going to happen is you'll probably end up at the end of the road a much better body fat percentage and a much higher degree of muscular development. Even if you're not getting at your natty potential, you're still going to increase a lot of muscle, lose some fat, and you're going to look a lot better. And isn't that the goal? And if you can do that over the course of 2 years, right, that's awesome. So that's what I would do. Sian, hi from Norway. Thank you for always being 100% legit. Thank you. I appreciate that. It makes my day. Big Bill Baker. I'm at the tail end of a cut. Nice work. It's taken longer than anticipated, normal. And I'm losing discipline. Any harm in doing a 10-pound bulk? No. I mean, when you get to the point where you're just like flopping around like a fish, and I'm not being critical, but if you get to that point where you're just simply not losing weight anymore, you need to do something, because staying at the same weight is not facilitating muscle. So you don't have to do a 10-pound bulk. You could do a 4-pound bulk over 2 months just to get back on track, and then do a 10-pound cut or an 8-pound cut. So, yeah, that's what I would do. If my main leg compounds are unilateral squats and hip hinges, no. I mean, those in and of themselves are not bad exercise, but you need something a bit more impactful in the mix. How many? Generally, I say 2 to 3. Some people don't like Bulgarians. Okay, so we got about 7 questions left, guys. So just again, last call. Some people don't like Bulgarians, so I'll generally 2 to 3, because they're a unilateral exercise. You got to bounce back and forth, and that can take up some time. So I don't like to go beyond 3 on a unilateral exercise. I should have said I was in a reverse diet trying to minimize fat gain through the holidays. Yeah, that doesn't impact fiber at all. I mean, fiber is fiber. Fiber is not going to impact muscle growth. Do you think 51 or 52 sets of neck strains on the toilet is better for hypertrophy? If you are straining your neck on the toilet, you probably need an exorcist. I was going to be really crude here, but I won't. We'll just let that go. Correct. If your body has no carbs, glycogen, it'll start bringing down muscle. Massive Iron World is perfect balance. Thank you, sir. Any date set for Table Talk with Dave? They reached out to me and in the middle of moving, so I got to get back to them this week and nail things down. Steve, is it okay on a 6-week cut to go back to maintenance for 1 day during that period? Well, it's not going to reset much, but there's no harm. Like if you're in a cut and you want to take 2 to 3 days as kind of a mental break, it's not going to reset much, but there's not going to be a lot of harm. The harm is when you go way over. So that's absolutely fine. Calorie intake is 2,400. Current weight 188. Not actively tracking macros. The only time you really have to get anal about tracking macros is if you're in a cut and you're really hungry. So as long as your protein intake is reasonable and your food intake choices are reasonable, then you're good. Mike Jonas, 1 gram of Tren for first cycle is good with 2 gram test as base. Okay, thank you. Hezekiah, what's the name of the movie that you're in, and where can I watch them? I was in a couple independent movies. Filming just as kind of I'm not the filmmaker, so don't quote me on this, but just as kind of a proof of concept or whatever, just I don't know, just to see if they want to do the whole thing. I don't know. I don't understand it. Joy Passello, Sam Sulak is on 5 grams a week. Where would you put all that stuff? I mean, like you got that big syringe and, that's like a gram and like, I don't know. How long is too long to rest in between sets? Well, it's very much exercise dependent. What I teach is, rest until you feel physically and mentally ready to go again. On some sets, like when I'm doing dumbbell rows for 200s for 20 reps, some of them can take, like in between sets of RDL, sometimes it can take up to 4 to 5 minutes, and that's okay. We want to always focus on, hard training. So that's the focus. And if we need a little bit more rest in between a set to facilitate a harder set, then that's absolutely fine. Can we take naps between sets? You can do whatever you want as long as your weekly volume is good. Finn. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Before I get out of here, don't go anywhere yet. Please head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman. Follow me. And don't forget that if you go over to superlivingtoday.com, there's a coaching special. You can search $6.99. You can get a year coaching for $699. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Join teammassiveiron.com. And if you want some good Christmas presents, I got some good apparel over there. Just check out the apparel tab or the workouts tab, or check out my massive collection if you want a lot of good workouts. And remember, can we take naps between sets? Try harder with your questions. Question harder than last time, and buy my fucking cookbook. See you guys. We are out of here. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.